Hi, I'm Dan Levinthal. I'm a faculty member at the Wharton School, and it's a real pleasure and honor to be able to introduce Connie Helfat as a member of the Academy Fellows. I have to say, introduce is a little awkward, I think, in the context of Connie, as her reputation and staying in the field well precedes whatever remarks I might make. But I thought it'd be fun and kind of useful to kind of give some of you a kind of sense of her backstory and the kind of context of her contributions that you may not be as well aware of. So here we have a bit of the arc of Connie's journey, not from a little red schoolhouse, but from kind of a interesting architectural kind of, I don't know, Victorian perhaps, of the Yale Econ department. And Connie entered the Yale Econ department at a pretty interesting moment for that entity. A time when these people named Dick Nelson and Sid Winter were finishing up some interesting work they were doing on the idea of evolutionary economics, a department chaired by a guy named Rick Levin, who went on to some other interesting, important jobs at Yale. And from that kind of red schoolhouse beginning, as it were, as we see this arc to the tech school of business. But I think that kind of imprinting of Connie, at Yale at that time, and I think also important to sort of foil the contrast effect of sort of the field of strategy at the time, right? And I think if we go back and remember the late 80s and perhaps try to just remember some elements of that, but from the strategy point of view, it was a really important critical point, business strategy field, going from this sort of focus on the Victoria Michael Porter focused 5 forces to, wow, underneath industries, there's all this heterogeneity. Firms turned out to be different. Maybe that's a really important, should be an important object of study. And so an important part of Connie's early body of work provided us with this really early, detailed, careful, empirical statement about those differences and how those differences played out over time. A lot of it having to do with R&D efforts in neural exploration industry, and really set the stage for and supplement a lot of the early conceptual thinking going on that period. But Connie there is sort of, okay, here's documenting the constraints and the openings that prior capability efforts provide. Those ideas really just expand enormously as her body of work continues. One variant, and sort of particular work with Marvin Lieberman, okay, if that's what's going on, how do we understand industry dynamics? What is the role of the inter alia entrants, those who come from other industries and the capabilities they might bring? New industries are not just filled with a wave of de novo new entrants. And then furthermore, this kind of let's really open up the head, the hood, conceptually, empirically, of what is going on in these path-dependent capabilities. And so some really important early work about the resource allocation process across time, the intertemporal development of capabilities, her paper with Kathy being one of the more notable among those contributions. And then Connie kind of becoming this really important major voice in the development ideas around dynamic capabilities, and sort of the lead author on this monograph that really became central and kind of anchoring the ideas, codifying, as it were, to a large degree, and becoming a real important catalyst for a really important set of ideas that have animated a lot of work in the management field since. So there's sort of this natural, nice kind of Connie, in some sense, living her theory. This imprinting at Yale into a particular context, and the incredible flowering of her work, putting those elements together. And so, in terms of outcomes, we have Connie the scholar with this incredible impact of her work. But I think it's also really important to recognize sort of Connie, as we have here, the first fierce institution builder. Do not mess with Connie. Connie incredible time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears in kind of how she helped push Strategic Management Journal forward as a critical platform for our field. But not just in her role for, I think, 7 years as editor, but really some other really important quiet institution building activities. Connie, in conjunction with Steve Klepper, helped create a really remarkable public good. People, Connie and others, Steve, have been doing industry studies, not just leveraging the CompuStat data set and creating cross-sectional and panel studies that might offer. But this enormous investment in industry studies, how could they be shared? And so Connie took a lead in creating a platform by which scholars could house and share those works so others could benefit. And in recent years, Connie's been the key catalyst in this really wonderful, quote, summer camp that's kind of brought junior faculty from another number of departments, a few seniors, and it's really been a very supportive environment for that kind of next generation scholars to go forward. So again, Connie, in all facets, the scholar, the citizen of the academy, has really given us so much. And so a honor highly, highly deserved, and in some ways a honor that she reflects back on the fellows. So I regret not listing a glass of wine with you all as we celebrate her, but look forward to our next in-person gatherings.